The BYU Cougars are 2-0 after a dominant win over Stanford, but the offensive output for the Cougars left a lot to be desired. But those to blame for said output are probably not the ones you're thinking of.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, executive producer at the KSL Sports Zone in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a 14-year credentialed media member at BYU. I am your resident expert and insider, your host here on this podcast. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Coming up on today's show, Film Review Monday, looking back at the Stanford win for BYU and what's exactly to blame for BYU's paltry offensive output. We'll explain what I took away in just a moment. We'll also talk about whose stock is up and whose stock is down in the Big 12. And boy, do we have some teams that stock is absolutely down and players individually that we'll get to. And then we'll finish up today's show with our prospect report. I was out at Lehigh High School on Friday night, had a great opportunity to catch up with not Isaiah Glasker, his cousin, Legend Glasker, Lehigh High School standout, and also watch him play live. We'll have a report on him, Devon Eka, as well as PJ Taki. It's all ahead on today's show, and it's all brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, redeem the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and get $20 off your first purchase. All right, so BYU dominates Stanford 27-3, but as many of you noted, and I noted myself in our postcast edition of the show, it felt different and it felt unsatisfactory, dissatisfactory, whatever term you want to use, especially when it came to BYU's offensive output. I'm not trying to take anything away from BYU's defense. BYU's defense was downright elite. They are allowing an average of 1.5 points per game. That is absolutely legendary stuff. Now, that number will not hold long term because there's much better opponents on the horizon for BYU, but the offense, as it often does, took a lot of abuse, or maybe abuse is too strong of a term, but a lot of criticism for its paltry output against Stanford, in particular, the inability to get in the end zone. Yes, there's blame to be thrown around. Guys like offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick are routinely the punching bags out there. But as I rewatch this game on tape, I'm telling you, the blame from my vantage point goes across the board. There's blame to be had by the quarterback, the running backs, wide receivers, offensive line, offensive coordinator, anybody involved with BYU's offensive output. There were decisions, execution that were all lacking, penalties, everything that cost BYU in that win. Cost sounds really weird to say in a 27-3 victory, but it fits all the same. Now, one thing that became clearly evident to me rewatching this game that I didn't recognize live on Saturday night is how much Stanford blitzed in this game. We're talking run blitzes, pass blitzes, twists, stunts, everything you could throw at a young quarterback, Stanford deemed necessary and they were willing to do. We saw guys coming from everywhere. And pretty often, if Stanford did not bring an extra guy or two on a blitz, that's when BYU had their most success. You can't blitz every single down because if you quote the great Coach Yost in remember times, you blitz all night. No, that won't fly because it just won't. You'll wear your guys out and it won't work. So Stanford was pretty clear that they were going to force the issue with Bear Bachmeier as a young quarterback and get after him. And boy, did they do that. The offensive line struggled mightily, particularly recognition on the interior BYU's offensive line when it came to the twist stunts that Stanford was bringing. They would slide protection one way. One guy would seem to miss a guy, and it caused an opportunity for a Stanford defender to get in Bear's face. You got to have better offensive line play and recognition. And I'm sure TJ Woods, he'll be drilling that into these guys this coming week. Blitz pickup from some of the running backs at times, a little bit weak. They're also looking at it. Stanford, that was something that was atypical of what I had seen from them in the Hawaii game. The Hawaii game, they were content to kind of keep things in front of them and avoid that run and shoot offense from really attacking them downfield. And they didn't show a ton of blitzing against Hawaii. And that was one of the, I guess, one game into a season against a kind of a unique offense. You don't really get a full feel for what Stanford's going to run. And they brought a blitz happy scheme and it caused problems for BYU. One thing I noticed on this as well is that one-on-one opportunities for Chase Roberts were plentiful in this game. That will be something that Bear Bachmeier is going to have to recognize as his progression goes along here as a quarterback, is that when you see number 2 out there on the perimeter and there is a one-on-one coverage scenario, get the ball to number 2. Chase is absolutely elite in one-on-one situations, and it's not going to be very often this season. I don't expect that he's going to have that many one-on-one opportunities. And even despite some of the missed opportunities from Bear not finding him in those moments, he still had a really, really fine game. I was really impressed with Chase, but he did not absolve him of one big drop in particular. I thought that could have gone for 6. There were drops from JoJo Phillips. There was at least one drop from Parker Kingston that cost BYU. So that's why I say the blame for BYU's paltry offensive output goes across the board for BYU. I'm not going to lay it at the feet of any single person. I also really thought that looking at it, that on the positive side of things, it all kind of went to the defense. BYU played games with Ben Branson, the Stanford quarterback. They were disguising coverages at a prodigious rate. Now, I don't proclaim to be an expert when it comes to coverages, but I can tell you, I can recognize when a team looks like they're going to go man, and all of a sudden at the snap, they morph into a zone, and that scrambles a quarterback's brain because you're expecting one thing, and then at the snap, it really messes with you because you're expecting one thing, and all of a sudden it's a completely different thing. It's very much an NFL-esque model. Very few college programs can do what BYU did to Stanford on Saturday night and disguise cover 3s, cover 4s, cover 2s, man concepts, matchup zones, sky coverages, zone cover 6. I'm getting like really inside baseball here with the technicalities, but the disguising of the coverages, absolutely downright elite from Jay Hill. And by the way, credit goes to BYU's, I guess you call it back 7 or 8, for their ability to disguise those coverages. They have to be really, really smart to really know what they're doing and pull that off successfully, and they absolutely did that. This is a game that's going to go on Jack Kelly's highlight reel. I don't think that's breaking down anything, but rewatching it, it was absolutely dominant at the point of attack, rushing the passer in run fits. I really think that Jack, he looks at the peak of his powers right now, and this will be one of those games that NFL teams who are looking at him come next spring will look back on and say, wow, that was a really seminal performance for him. Really liked, once again, what I saw from Falatao Satuala. We've been waiting for the former 4-star prospect from Bountiful High School to really emerge. And last night, or not last night, I'm recording Sunday night, so it was last night, but it was the coming out party for Falatao. They replaced Raider Demooney with Tanner. They replaced Raider Demooney with Falatao Satuala alongside Tanner Wall mid-game. That showed how well Falatao played. He had the interception, he had the safety. He was absolutely balling out. And if he can continue that progression, Falatao, he's going to be a mainstay in this defense the rest of the year and for seasons to come, because that was a really, really impressive performance from that young man. His length, his range, it's really unprecedented with how tall and long he is, but it's great to have a guy like that really starting to understand the concepts and come into his own. I also really thought that the punt for BYU, the punt game for BYU, very strong from Sam Vanderhaar. I don't think that's breaking news, but conversely, the ACC officiating, there were awful calls all night long. There was a punt that clearly went OB before the 50-yard line. All of a sudden, the side judge comes running up and then steps to the 50 and says, that's BYU's ball there. I'm like, no, that ball like landed out of bounds at the 50. That doesn't mean that it crossed the sideline at the 50. That was just the tip of the iceberg. Missed calls on well, there wasn't a missed call, but it was a bad call on the hold. There were missed holds for Stanford, especially late in the game. I guess like Isaiah Glasker getting absolutely dragged to the ground. And it was an ACC crew. So it was the home crew of Stanford, if you want to term it that. They were not very good. I'll just put it that way. And then also other things to take away real quick before we wrap up my notes. Oh, BYU's getting pressure with 3-man rushes. That is something that BYU has not had, I don't know, ever. The ability to drop 8 and get pressure with 3-man. Now, that is more to the offensive line's denigration. Speaking of Stanford, that BYU can rush 3 and get pressure on Ben Branson. But that was impressive to see. I thought BYU's run fits were pretty strong overall. They have allowed, going back to the Alamo Bowl, an average of about 5 yards per game rushing. Now, the offenses they have played have been more kind of pass heavy or just outright dominated by BYU's defense. But the ability for BYU to shut down the run, That is like priority number one in this defense that Jay Hill coordinates, is if you can shut down the run, it makes life a whole lot more easy for you on defense. And BYU did exactly that. And then the final note I got for you guys is guys that stood out to me on the offensive line, despite their struggles. I really liked what I saw from Isaiah Jota and Kyle Safarchuk. Now, Kyle Safarchuk has played a lot of football, albeit at the FCS level at Southern Utah, but I feel like the interior line play for BYU was better with him in there than when it was with Sonny Makassini and Austin Leusa at the guard spot. So Waylon Lapuaho, needs to get back very quickly. I have been told that he should be back in time for East Carolina, if not Colorado. And then once he's back, I would, for my money, put Kyle Safarchuk opposite him at right guard and roll with that five-man alignment with obviously Isaiah Jota and Andrew Gentry as your tackles and Bruce Mitchell as your center. I think that'd probably be a pretty stout offensive front, and they need to get some continuity and gel there. And that would be, I think, really smart this week to work on that and hopefully get it solidified as best you possibly can. So there you go. What I took away. So yeah, the blame, you may want to lay it at the feet of a guy like Aaron Roderick. You may want to lay it at the feet. I really think that there was blame across the board. Penalties, as I mentioned, dropped passes, missed assignments, execution was lacking in large doses, and a blitz-happy scheme that BYU maybe wasn't wholly prepared for. I think that all culminated in what was a otherwise paltry output, despite it being a fairly dominant and comfortable victory for BYU. All right, coming up next, stock up, stock down in the Big 12. Who shined? Who fell flat on their face? Well, I can tell you the ones who fell flat on their face are killing this conference, speaking of the Big 12, and we'll get into that next right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow, with over 280,000 parts, plumbing, HVAC, electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. They've got them all for you guys. And the best part is the real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The best part is they have the Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support, which make the whole process even smoother for you out there in the real world. So join the free Trademaster program today and score various perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. All you got to do is visit supplyhouse.com for free and use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. Real people and real service. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. College football is back, as you all know, and I couldn't be more excited and have an absolute blast so far this season. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stand, there's nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets to these games can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, and price is jumping right when you're trying to check out. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you as a fan. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. It is my absolute favorite thing about Game Time. Pull up the Game Time app in just a couple of taps. You can see amazing deals. Talk about seeing your favorite college football teams for as cheap as you possibly could imagine. And the best part is it shows you exactly what the view from your seat will be before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets and do it with our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Hope you're all having a fantastic Monday, wherever you might be out there. By the way, I mentioned this on the postcast on Saturday night, but Len, a big BYU fan who works in like the ambassador thing when it comes to game days at Lavelle Edwards Stadium, he gave me this shirt on Saturday night. It says Days of 47. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's got a bear and has Days of 47 surrounding him. My camera work's not very good here, but it's a really cool shirt, obviously honoring the Days of 47 with the connection to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and of course the starting quarterback at BYU, Bear Bachmeier, wearing number 47. If you would like to get one of those shirts, Len is actually got them up for sale. So if you want to get those, get one of those shirts, reach out to me and we'll get you in contact with Len. I thought it was a really cool thing that he was very kind to give me one of those shirts. And if you guys were interested in one, give it a shot. But as always, thank you for all y'all support. I also should mention this before we get going here. My good friend, former Locked On TCU host, Steven Simcox, reached out to me earlier this afternoon, it'd be Sunday afternoon, and said, hey, some guys on a mission in Temple, Texas stopped me and said they are Locked On Cougars fans. I said, that's awesome. Where did you get their names by chance? And he didn't have the last names. He said Elder Mike and Elder Jake. So if you know an Elder Mike and an Elder Jake serving in Temple, Texas, give him a shout out for me and tell him that Jake Hatch says what's up and thank you for your support out there in the mission field. So Stephen, by the way, doing great work covering the TCU Horned Frogs still. All right, now it is time for stock up and stock down in the Big 12. Now, I debuted this last week, and somebody said, well, you're just going to pick teams that are going to fall, they're going to lose, and teams are going to win. They're going to be, no, here's the thing about this. I'm going to have some fun with this, and that way I'm going to have fun with it is I'm going to highlight players, defense, offense, coaches, whoever I think stock up and stock down is. It may affect individual teams, obviously, but here's the deal about the stock up and stock down. It's a way for me to kind of riff on the Big 12 as a whole, and I want to start off with stock up. And you know who gets their stock up this week? Iowa State, the Cy-Hawk Trophy. If you know the history of this rivalry of late, Kirk Ferentz has been at Iowa for decades at this point, and he has like owned Iowa State, especially when it comes to playing in Ames on the home turf of the Cyclones. But to Matt Campbell and Iowa State's credit, they were able to fend that off, break the hex or whatever you want to call it, and get the win over their in-state rival and get the Cy-Hawk Trophy. So congratulations to the Iowa State Cyclones. Well-deserved victory and obviously showing out in a big way. Stock up, also Sawyer Robertson. Now, Dave Aranda looked like dead man walking at one point in this game as Baylor faced off against SMU in Dallas. They were down double digits, and suddenly Sawyer Robertson went just absolutely nuclear. 34 of 50, 440 yards, and 4 touchdowns as he rallies the Baylor Bears to a thrilling 48-45 win over the SMU Mustangs, striking fear into the heart of the ACC in particular, but also getting his stock even higher than it was. 2 weeks in, Baylor is 1-1, but Sawyer Robertson is already closing in on 1,000 yards passing. Now, is that a sustainable model for Baylor? I got a question on that. And the defense that Dave Aranda is supposed to be his specialty, it's absolutely a liability right now for Baylor, but stock is up for Sawyer Robertson right now. I also want to give stock up to this is an interesting thing about this is this stock up stuff. I'm going to be highlighting players and teams that have stood out to me, but I do want to give a shout out to a guy that you probably didn't expect to play in this game, but that goes to Ryan Staub, the quarterback at Colorado. And you're probably thinking, hold on, Jake. I thought it was supposed to be Caden Salter or Julian Lewis, supposed to be the quarterbacks at Colorado. Well, they are. Those are the top 2 quarterbacks, and Ryan Staub, in fact, is the 3rd-string quarterback at Colorado, but they were playing the Delaware Blue Hens in FCS versus FBS game, and Coach Prime decided to give all quarterbacks at least 2 series to see what they could do. Ryan Staub, well, he made the most of it and actually got 2 extra series and helped turn that was a pretty close game against the Blue Hens into a 31-7 rout. If that ends up with Ryan Staub being the starting quarterback, I don't know, but stock up for Ryan Staub to take advantage of an opportunity when he's been overshadowed by everybody else, it seems like, in the conference. And then the final note I got for you guys in stock up, I do want to also give a shout out to BYU. And the reason I do that is the stock for BYU's defense couldn't be higher than it is right now. So that's just one other aside. Now, stock is down. Well, here's the deal. Mike Gundy, your stock is down. You're going to go and say that Oregon's spending at a prodigious level and it should affect how many teams they can schedule or the level of teams they can schedule. If you're going to call out a team like Oregon and Dan Lanning, you better not get absolutely demolished 69-3. Mike Gundy, I don't know how long he is for Stillwater at this point, but that cannot help his cause to keep his job. I know that he is like Oklahoma State Cowboy football personified, but man, Dan Lanning, he poured it on. He said he actually used the term poured gasoline on it post game in terms of the comments that came from Mike Gundy, and he was more than happy, he said, to kick some ass in that win over Oklahoma State. It was a bad look. Stock down for the Arizona State defense, and especially their secondary. You have Mississippi State right where you want them. You got like 40 some odd seconds to go. And what do? You screw up your coverage, don't have a deep safety, and you allow a Mississippi State receiver to run right by you for a 58-yard touchdown that proved to be your undoing in a 24-20 loss to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State is supposed to be one of the worst, if not the dregs, of the SEC this year, and our defending champion, speaking of the Arizona State Sun Devils, lost in Starkville. That is absolutely brutal. And I will say a little bit of the stock down also goes to Sam Leavitt. He had a pretty horrendous performance, but the defense for Arizona State, absolute letdown at the worst possible moment you could have that. And also, I do want to say stock down to the West Virginia Mountaineers. I know that Ohio had a really, really good season a year ago, but their head coach left. They had a really good team, but you can't, if you're Rich Rod, lose to a MAC program in Ohio 17-10. It also cost West Virginia College Game Day. They were going to come to West Virginia for College Game Day this coming week. Had West Virginia just done the thing and won the game, absolute stock down. And then, you know what? I kind of called, no, I didn't kind of call it. I did call it in my Big 12 Big Pick segment on Friday. I said I got Army upsetting Kansas State. And what did Army do? They put together what they call their game control expertise. Now, as you all know, the Army is known for its ground campaigns or its land campaigns. They held the ball for more than 40 minutes in the Little Apple, speaking of Manhattan, Kansas. They allowed Kansas State to have two second half possessions and get away with a 24-21 upset of Kansas State. I think we can all safely cross Kansas State off the list right now of teams that are, I think, going to contend in this conference. Now, could they rebound? Yes, but that's an awful start for Kansas State. They lost to Iowa State in Dublin. They probably should have lost that FCS game. Who did they play? I don't remember. It was South Dakota. And then, they lose to Army, who, by the way, Tarleton State, an FCS program, beat the week before. That's an objectively bad look for Kansas State. And I don't envy being Chris Kleiman or anybody involved with Kansas State athletics right now, because that is a really, really big black eye on what a program that's supposed to be a routine contender every single season. It's a bad look right now. So I don't know what to make of Kansas State, but it does not look good at the moment. All right. So there you go. That's my stock up and stock down for the week. Let me know what you think. Are you in agreement with me? Did I miss out on somebody, a team you think I need to highlight in this? Be sure to drop it in the comments below or reach out to us via social media or email, and we'll make sure to add them in future editions. All right, coming up next, though, Prospect Report. Exclusive one-on-one conversation with legend Glasker, a commit to the BYU football program, and he makes an interesting comment that he may have actually been at BYU this fall, if not for something really kind of funny playing out. And we'll get to that next, as well as some thoughts on guys like Devon Eka and PJ Taki. That's all next right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are having fun along the way. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The best part is FanDuel fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, want to do live betting in the midst of the action. It's all available to you guys, and it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup along the way. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, and if it hits, once again, $300 to use in bonus bets across the app or online. And check it out all once again from our friends over at FanDuel. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Another reminder for you guys to join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group if you have not done so already. It's a great way to interact with the show, support the show, but more importantly, get the insider intel that you crave. And the kicker is you get a 14-day free trial to get all the inside intel that you want coming directly to your phone in the form of a text message before you charge a single penny. And it's just $5 a month afterwards to be a part of the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. So hope that many more of you will be joining us in the coming days and weeks. All right, let's finish up today's show on the prospect front. Now, the 2026 recruiting cycle for BYU has been a little bit hectic of late because we had a guy like PJ Taki announce his decommitment not that long ago. Well, I had already planned to go over to Lehigh High School, which is literally down the street from my house in Saratoga Springs, to watch Lehigh take on Desert Hills because I wanted to get a look at legend Glasker. I wanted to get an eye on Devon Eka, who is a running back BYU has been in hot pursuit of, has not committed yet, but BYU has been chasing. And I also wanted to get a feel for PJ Taki's game, even with him deciding to decommit from BYU. Well, I got out to Lehigh, and they made quick work of Desert Hills. That Desert Hills squad that formerly had guys like Panay Sewell and Gabe Sewell Jr., yeah, they are not that Desert Hills squad anymore. They struggled mightily in a 42-14 loss, and it was 42-0 before they put some lipstick on the pig with 2 late touchdowns, speaking of the Thunder. But in that game, legend Glasker, absolutely elite. And without further ado, I want you guys to hear his thoughts on the game, and more particularly, what his relationship is with BYU coaches, and also what his cousin, Isaiah Glasker, standout BYU linebacker, has told him about playing at BYU and in Provo. So here's an exclusive conversation with legend Glasker after Lehigh's win last Friday.
Just give me your thoughts on the game tonight, a relatively easy win for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the game we're planning for, but it was a good win to come out here for our first home game and really show what Lehigh football is all about.
What's the mindset this season for you guys? Because you've had a really, really successful program over the past few years.
The mindset for us this year is like to come out here, really show what we're made of. Because last year, I mean, we had a good run, but in the semifinals game, we don't want that to happen again. So we're trying to just come out here and beat everybody as best as we can.
What's the relationship with BYU like at this point?
Great. I mean, it just gets stronger and stronger every time I go up there. I mean, we're close with my family, obviously my cousin and me, and it just keeps growing stronger every single time I go up there.
How close are you with Isaiah?
Pretty close. I've known him my whole life. Me and him used to come over to my house, him and all my cousins, older brother. We'd just sit at the house and chill, play games, and yeah.
What does he tell you about BYU? Because he's morphed into bona fide NFL prospect and the like. What has he told you about the experience?
He said just go out there and do what you do, because he wasn't the biggest. I mean, he was 6'5", but he wasn't the biggest. He had to put on a lot of weight. He said just go in there, keep your head down, work hard as best as you can, and just do what you know you can do, because the coaches are there for you.
What's it like talking with a guy like Fesi Satake, who figures to be your position coach at the next level?
I mean, every time he always has something to tell me about what I need to do better at this, but I mean,
even
he's a
now
great
in your
coach.
high school, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was at the game today. He was telling me, you know, block a little bit better, do this a little better. He's always in my ear telling me things I need to work on, the little details to get better.
What about Kalani Satake?
Kalani, same thing. I mean, he tells me, I mean, he tried to get me to go there this year. He tried to get me to take summer school and go there this year.
Graduate early, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Coach Hatfield said no, so yeah.
What have you worked on most, like in terms of your play on the field?
Really, I try to work on my speed and hands, really, in my route running. I try to get as fast as I can, because speed kills, and obviously the weight room, really just all of it, but mainly speed and hands, because if I can run fast and catch the ball, that's really good.
One thing I was really impressed with, you had I think it was a screenplay over on the far sideline. You essentially just shrugged the guy off. Have you worked on your strength?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm pretty strong. I mean, bench, squat, I mean, it's still working up, but I'd say it's pretty good for what it's at right now.
What do you envision, just future looking ahead? What do you want to accomplish?
I want to be the #1 receiver at BYU and go in the NFL. I don't want to just make it to the NFL, but I want to impact the NFL in a major way. I just want people to look up to me in a great way. I want only people to say good things about me, not bad things.
What ultimately sold you on picking BYU in the end?
Just the love and support. I mean, every school's going to have love and support, but there was just something about BYU with loving me and my family. I mean, they showed love to my family and obviously me, but the love that they showed to my family really sold me.
And I guess last thing for me is you look towards your time at BYU. What's the timeline? Are you going to go right into BYU? What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, I'll be graduating in December to go in there. So I'll be there for all the trainings, spring camp, summer camp. I'll be there in December for all that.
So early enrollee, you'll be going in January then. Well, awesome. Well, hey, Legend, thanks for the time, man.
Thank you.
There you have it, Legend Glasser. Big thank you to him for taking the time to join us here on the podcast. And a couple other quick notes is that Legend, he absolutely lives up to his billing. Now, when you have the name Legend, you've got to do some pretty special stuff. And you heard me talk about the fact that he shrugged off a guy on the sideline. He didn't just shrug him off. He straight up just kind of threw him into the sideline. It was absolutely dominance. And he's not the biggest guy, but you heard him talk about the fact that he's very strong for his frame, and it shows. He also had 2 really, really nice touchdown catches, one a really long pass, another one he just went up and plucked it out of the air. Legend has every skill that a guy like Fesi Satake is going to want in a wide receiver, and it doesn't hurt that he's got the bloodlines like a guy like Isaiah. He talked about the fact that Isaiah was 6'5" and a bit of a beanpole when he came out of Bingham High School back in the day. Well, Legend, he's pretty skinny in his own right, but given time, I think the Legend's going to fit right in with BYU. I think he'll be an absolute star in this offense for the Cougars. And you heard him talk about the fact he wants to be a dominant player, much like his older cousin Isaiah is, and he wants to go to the NFL. I think that's great goals to have. And sure looks like he's got the skills to do that. And obviously we'll have to play out over the next 3 or 4 years, but it sounds like he's enrolling early and he wanted to enroll even earlier. So that was kind of interesting to hear him talk about that. The fact that he may have been enrolled at BYU this fall had things played out a little differently, but hey, I understand his coach wanting him to stick around for his senior year, because a guy of that caliber, yeah, you absolutely want him on your team. A couple other thoughts real quick. I thought PJ Takitaki absolutely looks the part as a really nice edge rusher, 6'4", 220, 230 pounds. And I hope the BYU can get back in on the sweepstakes for him. I don't necessarily know what ultimately led to him to decommitting from BYU at this juncture, and I hope that whatever it is, it can be overcome and that he can get back in the good graces, if you want to call it that, and end up at BYU once again. But no matter who lands him, that kid's an absolute force off the edge. But the guy who I thought really stole the show, Devon Eka. He is a really electric running back. There's a reason why BYU and other programs are interested in him. I can tell you that coaches from both BYU and Utah were on hand at Lehigh on Friday night watching these prospects play out alongside myself. I saw them there. And Devon Eka, I thought, stole the show. His balance, his ability to run through contact and stay upright. He's got a really nice north-south running ability, but more importantly than that, he's able to kind of go east-west while keeping his speed. That's a key element that I think a lot of people overlook in running backs. There's a lot of guys who can run fast north-south. You get them just straight up, they can really burn. But the ability to keep your speed going left and right or east-west and keep that ability to keep your self upright, it's really hard to teach that. It's kind of a preternatural ability, and I really thought that Devon Eka put that on full display. And I think the BYU, they would very much like to have him as a member of the program. I know that Harvey Unga, among others, have been recruiting him. He's got offers from a number of other programs out there, and we'll see how it all shakes out. But I was really impressed with him, watching him on Friday night. So there you go. That's what I got for you guys on this Monday, jam-packed edition of the show. And as always, thank you for all of your support. Do want to thank you guys for being with us. Do want to remind you guys, coming up on Thursday, and another big moment for Locked On College Football fans, we have launched with Fire TV, the College Football Kickoff. It is your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 is leading the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Hawley, and of course, our local experts with the Locked On Podcast Network. A college football preview like only Locked On and Fire TV can do. Catch the College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. But as always, make sure you guys check that out along with being an everydayer here on the podcast. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen today. We'll catch you guys again tomorrow.